Welcome to the channel. Thank you everyone for tuning in. So with me today I have the San Martin SN0122 GMT. Now if you haven't seen this before, that's because it's not available in the San Martin store, because this is a Watchdives and San Martin collaboration. And there's not actually any reviews on YouTube. So if you're waiting to see what this watch is all about, and hopefully I'll give you guys a better idea by the end of the review. Now, I have to say this watch actually really did impress me. It's built really well. I don't know if Watchdives have added anything in terms of design, but there is obviously a lot of San Martin here. But I really would like to know what Watchdives are bringing to the table. Is it just cash injection, or is it actually any design input? So with this watch, regarding specifications and dimensions, as I covered them in the unboxing, I'll put them up on screen. Spec wise, nothing too fancy, something that we are all used to by now with a watch from AliExpress. With regards to dimensions, what I will say is this is a very well proportioned watch. It's only 39mm at the bezel, so the case is just a bit smaller, which means it's going to have a really good fit. It's also got a very compact lug to lug of 47mm with the usual 20mm lug width, tapering down to 16 at the clasp. But it does have a thickness of 14mm, which is quite thick, but no doubt that's due to this high dome sapphire crystal, which I think they could have done without. They could have gone with a flat sapphire crystal or just a slightly top hat. I don't think there's any need for this dome sapphire crystal. Not that it's bad or anything, it just adds a bit of height where you don't need it. But it's also weighing in at 160 grams, so that's a fair bit of weight for such a compact watch, shall we say. Now in terms of colorways, you do have three distinct colorways available. You've got this blue with the orange and yellow accents, so they've got a bit of a color mismatch. Now it looks intentional, so I don't know how everybody feels about that, but when we look at the green one, for example, you also got a similar orange and yellow one there, but with the green you've got the black date wheel, which you also have on this blue one. Now while the black date wheel works okay on the blue one in my opinion, I think on the green one it sticks out too much. It's a little bit too different. Usually people want color match date wheels to do what they say, which is match the color. But with the green, I think a white date wheel would have looked better, and it would have added that symmetry to the dial hour markers. Now you also got a black with red accents, and of course a black date wheel does make sense there. But again, same could be said for that with the white date wheel. So it's not always necessary to go for these black date wheels, and you'd rather go for a full color match if you're going to do that. Now, the other thing we want to talk about is the price. It is very close to £300. It's £270, and of course you'll get some money off in the sales. And I recommend, anyone, if you're going to buy this kind of San Martin at that price, just wait for the bigger sales, because you end up getting around £40 to £50 off, which I think is the better price and the right price these should sell for. Not to say, I don't think they're worth it, because looking at this in hand, the overall build quality, the finish I have in front of me, plus the specifications, it's a monster of a watch if you think about it. And AliExpress should have nothing to do with it, because when we compare this to micro brands, even the budget micro brands, it's very difficult for them to give us something like this. We can get really affordable watches at a really high quality from AliExpress, and San Martin being, I think, the pinnacle of them. Now let's talk about some of the things I like that you can see on the dial and the face of the watch. So they have got a really high quality dial. Now I do call San Martin out on their plain and basic simple dials, but for this instant it does match. It's a matte effect, but it does have a very slight sheen. Also got like a depth of color on this, so that blue isn't flat, right? It does darken in some areas, so it's a really nice effect, and it's very subtle. Now the dial also has these applied hour markers, and you can see they are quite thick, which should mean loads of lume, and they've opted for a printed logo at the 12. Now that's a very subjective point. There's people on one side that want polished applied logo that they usually use, and then some people actually like this printed one. I prefer the printed within this context and this particular watch. I think the applied logo would have been a bit too shiny, a bit too much in your face, because a lot of the features on this watch are in fact matte. Now with regards to the text above the 6, I've said it on a lot of the watches, and the more I say it, the more noticeable it is. That automatic, that hideous equal sign, that 300 meters, 990 foot, they need to move away from all that, because just look at the size and proportion. That's almost as big as the logo. In fact, I think it is bigger than the logo. So it kind of messes with the proportions of the dial. It just needs to be like a lot thinner, a bit more in the background of the dial. So it's there, but not overly in your face. Because once you do notice it, you can't not see it, and I don't like the type of font you use as well. Now, everything else in terms of the handset quality and the dial is excellent. You've got amazing lume, as you can see. I think they've used plenty of layers on there. You also got illuminated bezel insert, so this is an absolute lighthouse, full-on lume monster, and you can't fault them for that. Obviously, just bonus points for San Martin and Watchdives on this one. Another part of this dial is this chapter ring. So because this is a dive watch with a 120 click unidirectional bezel, and you've got a GMT function, they've kind of assimilated that and given us a 24-hour chapter ring in the center. Now this is also cut a different color to the actual whole watch, so this chapter ring itself does have another sheen on it. It's a different hue. It's a much lighter blue, and again, entirely subjective. How do people feel? Do people like this sort of disruption on the dial? But the 24-hour Arabics are also in yellow, and it's a very different shade to the orange. Obviously, it's not even close. So again, this is going to be very subjective to a lot of people watching. Moving over to the bezel, it's a coin edge bezel, and San Martin have now mastered bezels. They've mastered them a while ago, to be fair. 120 click, you've got this matte blue ceramic insert, which is a nice touch. As I said, you've got an overall matte effect to the whole watch. Perfect alignment, extremely tactile, a little bit too tactile for my taste. I do like just a bit of smoothness and subtlety in there. You can hear the pitch of the rotation was a bit high, but that's just purely subjective. That's me being me. But as a bezel as it stands, it's perfect. There's no problems with this. Great resistance, and the accuracy, as I said, it's all there. Moving over to the case, one thing that you can look at is the fit and finish that San Martin have got to now, and they've had it again for such a long time. These end links are perfect on almost every watch they do. I mean, I've got some Seikos which are much higher end, and they also have a bit of a wobble in there. The case finish is as expected. We've seen these cases from San Martin now. They should be the experts in these cases because they've got loads of variants of this style. You've got the satinized brushing along the sides. You've got these polished bevels, very thin polished bevels that really help highlight the case, give it that premium luxury look and feel. And of course, I particularly like this side of the case where the crown is and the crown guards. You notice how they sort of pinch in by the crown, giving you this sort of leaf or a drop leaf effect on the case. Of course, it's executed really well, and you obviously all design credits to the watch. It is homaging, but yeah, it's flawless, right? And I usually complain about sharp edges on these cases, but I can confirm to you guys this is not peeling any potatoes, because that edge is, it is crisp and well defined, which is what they want, but that sharpness just isn't there. They have actually, given it that final bit of buffing or finishing, which I've been wanting on so many other models. So yeah, really nice, very smooth, and yeah, really well built. Fully brushed, of course, for that tool diver aesthetic. The bracelet is chunky, the links are quite thick. 3-link bracelet. Usual type of brushing from San Martin, satinized brushing, absolute flawless. Screw-in links. You also got the on-the-fly adjustment clasp, so the shell is the same from the other clasps. Twin pushers. You got your, again, polished beveled highlights along there. The 2 screws signify the on-the-fly adjustment mechanism, and it is a spring-loaded mechanism. So the previous mechanisms we had from a lot of brands was the one where you have to kind of yank it down, and that is a bit rough on your fingertips. But with this, just press and it releases, and you've got a few adjustments as it goes down, and that works really well. So overall, it's a fantastic watch, fully spec'd, and 270 isn't that bad. But if you can't wait and save up to 40-50 pound in the sales, why not? Now on wrist, as I said at the start of the video, it is a magical formula, the dimensions that they've got on this. Very proportionate watch. It fits amazingly well on my 6.5-inch wrist. There's no top heaviness, there's no wobble. The weight is really well spread out, and it just fits really good. 39mm, 47mm, bang on. And the thing with these flat cases, if they're any bigger, they don't really fit smaller wrists too well, but I find this really comfortable. You can see the second link is just hugging that wrist, and yeah, it's good. Like I said about the weight as well, that 160 grams, it's around 150 size to my wrist. It does throw you off a little bit because you expect that weight on a much bigger watch, but it could also mean that it's much more substantial. Obviously, the addition of the on-the-fly clasp and maybe a few grams here and there on the movement, it all kind of adds up, but it's okay for the most part. And even that domed sapphire Like I said, there's really no need for it because the case profile doesn't really call for it, but it looks good, it looks okay. Just adds maybe a mil and a half to the overall thickness, which they could have done without, in all honesty. So yeah, I'm really happy with how it looks on wrist. I'm really happy with all the quality of it that I can see, and very objectively, in terms of quality and build specs, I really can't fault it. The only other thing is, as I said, the smaller criticisms you can make are entirely subjective, and really it's over to you guys. How do you feel about the different colored sort of chapter ring? How do you feel about the use of the yellow accents against the orange? While I don't think it's offensive, it does work, but there are people out there that are extremely particular. I do think the blue and yellow contrast works, as well as on the green, and the red of course always works with black, but that's the only thing I can really comment on. So that's it from me today, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section, and as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.